what is usually the common ground for all of that cross expertise communication to go on?
Common ground in terms of how does
Communication.
company A interact with company
Yeah,
B
yeah.
kind of thing. Uh, Client relationship skills, listening exceedingly well, documenting what you've heard, doing it well. When you come back with your ideas on a solution, you're highlighting those points that you learned during the analysis phase and highlighting why you're making the suggestions you're making.
Um, so as far as I understand, a lot of people in early career come into a job thinking there's a clear description for me to do. There's an exact number of things I need to do on a daily basis. So I just go in and do it, right? And I'm listening to somebody else who's more senior than me, giving me instructions.
Because if they're older and experienced, they know what the deal is too. When they see me in the chair or in the role every day and they recognize, all right, he's not an ass, he's competent, he's capable, you know. Um, but if there's issues or whatever, I expect that they will have seen that. So that becomes the foundation of the groundwork of me having that conversation with that person where I would have to sit down and say, need to talk with you about fill in the
Hello,
blank.
everyone. So today is the first English version of the podcast series that I've been doing, and we have here right now Brian Schlieder, one of the very good friends of mine, also a family member. So reason I asked him to be here today is to talk about leadership because Brian has been in multiple leadership roles in the past. So I believe from the information I've got, you started your career in 1985 with AT&T. Um, you were in multiple sales positions before moving on to manager, and relocated to Denver in 1994. Have been in Denver, Colorado ever since. But you worked with Accenture, one of the biggest companies in consulting, for quite some time, and held very important positions there. So, very curious to hear your take on leadership in your job and how that kind of translate into your life as well.
Appreciate that. Thanks very much, Dad. And it's a pleasure to be here with you and with everyone else that will view in the future. Yeah, I kind of make a joke that after 37 years in corporation, I still remember the day I started with AT&T, August 12th, 1985. Lots gone on since that time. Um, Ultimately, after several roles with AT&T, Lucent Technologies, Avaya, always staying with the same company, but in different roles and moving to many different roles from call center operations to sales roles, primarily on the phone, doing sales there, moving to operations control specialist role. That was my first managerial role, if you will. Didn't have a team that I was supporting at that time, but working directly within the outside sales force in the internal operations teams to make telecommunications. And for those don't know what I mean by that, I'm not talking about today's cell phone kind of work. It's companies' 800 numbers, their Watts lines that businesses used, and very large privately owned private branch exchanges is what they're called. If you ever go into a large corporation or call center environment, there's a huge box somewhere that supports all the telecommunication needs, internet needs, etc. for a company on-prem. In 2001, after those first 15, 16 years, I happened to be in a training manager role at that time. Um, my particular training management role was doing training content development. And what does that mean? It's really focused on uh, developing training materials for internal groups or external clients. I wanted to say a bit about what is a consulting firm for anyone that's watching that may not know what that is. Basically, a consulting firm is a business that has very focused and industry-specific experts internally. And consulting firms provide professional guidance, recommendations to fix processes, people, systems that help a company solve a business problem.
Right.
Whether they've got issues with their HR department or any other group, they're experts that do that. And every company, I don't care how big or small it is bound to have problems. Consulting firms are contracted with to help solve those problems.
How big of a company do you usually work with?
Very, very large companies. I only listed a few here that we ended up taking over parts of and or supported. But Accenture being the fifth largest consulting firm on the planet, its primary competitors are companies like Deloitte, KPMG, big financial accounting firms, and they too offer consulting services. Accenture does things differently. They also support financial accounting and all of that stuff. They started with Andersen Consulting, which used to be one of the largest financial consulting firms in the world. The size companies we support, 500,000, 1 million, 2 million people. Largest companies in oil and gas. So think Exxon or Mobil.
Right.
Largest companies in banks in the finance sector. Think the biggest banks that are on Wall Street and every place else. Those are the companies that contract out for contracting services, come in and help us solve this problem. We don't have time to focus on it. So we'll pay you to do it, make your recommendations, and go through a process that's known as ADDIE, which is very much analogous to the training work that I did. ADDIE means you're going to analyze a problem. You're going to work to design a solution. You're going to work to develop that solution and get it in play. You're going to implement that solution and then evaluate, how did we do? Did we hit the mark? Did we accomplish it? What are the shortcomings? And it's a circular process that you always come back to analysis again.
Right. Until you can figure out the best way to solve the problems, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely so.
So why do big companies like, say, Deloitte, Chevron, and whatever you just mentioned, those are huge companies, right? Why do they need somebody from the outside to come in and fix their problems?
Well, Deloitte, KPMG, with other examples of other consulting firms like Accenture. They are helping people in those various industries. Why do they do it? If you think about, let's take Bank of America as an example in the finance sector. Huge bank, thousands and thousands and thousands of people. But what is their expertise? Their expertise is actually in financial accounting, dollars and cents, investing side, banking side, etc. That's their expertise. But you've got tens of thousands of people that work there, and you have an HR issue, and you have antiquated software, let's say, at Bank of America, and you need a company to come in and address human resources problems in a new human resource software application that's going to solve their training needs, their benefits for their employees needs, their retirement needs. All these people have issues, and you've got antiquated software. And so you will probably want to implement a new ERP, employee resource plan software, that can be brought in, that can manage all your today needs and looking to the future, and do it in such a way that it's cost effective, beneficial, but you don't have that expertise inside. You're all a bunch of finance people. So get people that are experts at software implementation and rolling it out to tens of thousands of people.
So sounds like you have to, in your career, you have to work with experts from multiple.
Absolutely.
You have to work with experts in software, expert in, let's say you're working with Bank of America, so you need to know the internal working of their business a little bit, and to work with finance expert.
And that all comes out, you're exactly right. All that comes out in those initial stages of analysis. So what do you have today? Where are your groups? Who does what? How do they do it? And how might we improve that as a result of this project?
What is usually the common ground for all of that cross expertise communication to go on?
Common ground in terms of how does company A interact with company B, kind of thing. Client relationship skills, listening exceedingly well, documenting what you've heard, doing it well. When you come back with your ideas on a solution, you're highlighting those points that you learned during the analysis phase and highlighting why you're making the suggestions you're making.
So a lot of people might be wondering, why did you make that switch from being just in sales and direct customer relations to, working in training and development of training material?
I appreciate the question, and I think I understand it. I had a minor thing in sales. I could have been in sales. I thought about it many times. But I've been in operations kind of individual for a really long time.
Right.
And that is, this is what needs to get done. I have a team that accomplishes that task. Go make that happen on time, on budget, and with quality. And so that's kind of always been a strength. It's always kind of how I've landed. Situation comes up, it needs fixing, take care of that. Okay. Rather than sales. So. And in my role, just to carry on with the Bank of America story or example a little bit more, my role after having gone through all those software enhancements are, you now have tens of thousands of people, or a lot of people, that need to understand it. What changes are made? What's the new system do? Why is this making our life better? Well, I and our team created training for those individuals in many different roles. So it would be multiple training projects, if you will, to ensure that the implementation of that program, that software, that change in HR is implemented and then implemented effectively. And you do that through training, coaching, development of the client's resources.
Interesting. So we're going to come back to that process in a moment. I want to transition over to leadership a little bit, which is the topic of today's. So as far as I understand, a lot of people in early career come into a job thinking there's a clear description for me to do. There's an exact number of things I need to do on a daily basis. So I just go in and do it, right? And I'm listening to somebody else who's more senior than me, giving me instructions. For you, what was the first time in your career that you felt like I'm in a leadership position? I'm making my calls on more things than just listening to instructions and orders.
Yeah, I would say it was probably the first time I actually had a team of individuals reporting to me, if you will, that I was directly responsible for. And it was an interesting transition. And it does go back to the telecommunications days, because as I progressed and got a couple of smaller promotions or whatever, I moved into a role that ultimately I was promoted this next time to go back to a team that I used to be on. and now you're the leader of that team. So that had its own challenges, right? I came from you a couple of years ago, and here I am back, and I'm the boss, if you will. That was in a call center area of accounts receivable, and we have business requirements to do things in accounts receivable. It's a lot of numbers that need to be met. And yet I was working with people that I used to sit next to and do the same job with. So I knew what they were doing, which was good from my perspective because I had done it. And now I was in a leadership role, which was challenging. But at first, to your point, I think I had to learn, what am I responsible for in this role that I wasn't responsible for before?
And then you think you went there to tell you what you were responsible for, or did you have to do some discovery yourself?
Probably both. Yeah. See, here's a list. This is the way it gets when you're in management. Here's a list of what you're responsible for. Go do that. Okay. So what do I, in receivership of that, need to do? I need to go through that list, dig in, find whatever I need to find. I need to reach to other peers that already do that. I need to be cognizant and aware of those peers that do that very well and watch them, learn from them, ask questions of them, and then come back and apply it at the desk. And over time, you better.
You learning and you're leading at the same time, right?
Absolutely. Oh, you're on point and you're learning. And failure in learning
or more than others, right?
Well, if you fail quickly and you learn very fast.
So being in a new role, in a leadership role, did you feel like you have to earn the trust of people because you were working side by side with them on at the same level, right? But now,
right.
You're leading them. So how did you earn that trust?
It actually went fairly smoothly for me because they did already know me. I talk about, or I've got something in my notes here for a little bit later that I think stresses the importance of establishing who we each are as a person. So they kind of already knew who I was. They knew I was trustworthy. They knew I wasn't trying to get over on them. I was there to partner, help. To me, a manager's role has always been, because a manager or a leader in an organization is there to support a team. That's the words, and I believe that. And so my primary role is to remove roadblocks so that they can be successful. Because if they're successful, the team is successful, then we all win.
What kind of roadblocks did you see them having?
New people on the team, and they don't have the training necessary to do the job to the level of proficiency that you want. So what can I do to help educate you and support you more on that? Because I know what it's like to, here's a list of things, go do them. Well, I know that's not a really good way to treat a new employee or make them feel valued and valuable. So I take the extra time necessary to support them. Let me show you how that works. Let me look at that. I can still remember Steve Valerino back in Syracuse, New York, coming up to me. And we used to have these great big manuals. There were 3 of them. The amount of documentation in AT&T days. And he'd go, I've read this and I've read this, but I don't understand this 3rd one as it relates to those. And I just looked at him, I go, this is the type of man I want to work with. Thank you. The difference is this. And I was able to explain it. Why? Because he went out and looked on his own, had a question, specific question. It was done in 2 minutes. Now I understand. Thank you. Done. Worked very well. Things like that is doing more than just handing someone. It's in the book, Right.
So is this more like a feedback loop of letting them try it, come back?
Mentorship, all those things come into play that we've talked about many times before.
Yeah. So have you ever had somebody who's older than you in the team, someone with more experience, but you are in the leadership role, right? You have to show them the rope. You know that they're doing something wrong, but you have to tell them how. Have you ever had that experience before?
I have. Absolutely have. And it's challenging as time progresses. Later in my career, that became a lot easier.
Right, with more experience and more seniority.
Because if they're older and experienced, they know what the deal is too. And they see me in the chair or in the role every day and they recognize, all right, he's not an ass. He's competent. He's capable, you know. But if there's issues or whatever, I expect that they will have seen that. So that becomes the foundation of the groundwork of me having that conversation with that person, where I would have to sit down and say, need to talk with you about fill in the blank. You and I both know that, and I would get their buy-in to the situation because they are older and more experienced.
Right.
Get their buy-in on it, discuss it, and say, we need to do better. And that means me and you. That it's the connection. And they know, they're smart enough to walk away and go, no, that's me. I got to take care of my side of it. And then I'll reward accordingly and verbalize accordingly if behavior changes, you know. Hope that makes sense.
That's interesting. It's a lot of time. I guess someone who's new in the leadership role doesn't have to. First of all, the foundation of trust and relationship that you mentioned needs time to build on, right? So without that foundation of trust and relationship, it's difficult to establish that credibility with the person in front of you, especially if they're older and more experienced.
You're absolutely right, and that takes time. I have had, and it served me well. It was a personal observation very early in my career, though, where I was looking at, I would always go into a role and look at other people who were doing that role. And I always felt like I want to do it at least as well as they do. Preferably even a little nudge more, look into that other thing that we all don't look at. Why do they do it this way? What's up with that? And just try and get answers to those questions. But I always felt whatever role, whether it was a call center role, accounts receivable role, a managerial role, for the peers that look like they're doing this well, how do I do it well? And then how do I add just a little more? I've done that throughout my whole career.
Yeah, definitely. It's the 1% improvement every day, every week, or whatever that makes a big difference.
Exactly right. Yep. Always looking for an opportunity to fix something, improve something, or to support something that's actually looks right to you. Doing the right thing for the right reasons at the right time is the skill that only comes over time. But even as a young manager, a young leader is what you're describing, there's a great benefit to that. Listen more, talk less in the early days.
That's not always easy, isn't it?
No, it's not. No. You're right.
Yeah, I also see myself in that trap sometimes because I tend to share and, speak from experience, but it's not really, the thing is sometimes the person is not speaking what they're thinking. So there's always some kind of hidden questions, and if we don't listen close enough, we don't find out what those hidden questions are.
Right. And what the nuances of what they are saying and how they're saying it versus what they're not saying is what you're describing. And two very different things, and yet both are very valid in the context of what's going on. Never forget the mantra that I've never learned a single thing while these lips were moving.
Why God gives us 2 ears and 1 mouth, right?
Exactly right. 100%.
So, would you agree that communication is the foundation of leadership, or is there more to the picture?
Oh, I think there are more things to it. I think communication is critical.
Mhm.
Yes. But I think there are definitely other things besides communication. There are very effective communicators. We see them in politics. We see them in corporate leadership. We see them in organizations. They speak very well.
They don't lead very well.
I'm sorry?
They speak very well, but sometimes they don't lead very well. Is that what you're getting at?
Absolutely true. 100%. And after 37 years, I'd like to believe I know who it was. Now, feedback, to talk about the distinguishing characteristics, because people can speak well, and over time you learn, yeah, they really don't know what they're doing though, right? But they speak very well. Another thing I would recommend to the young leaders that you interact with and you yourself, and I know you do this very well, and it will contribute to your success more than you even know. I've received feedback from teams that I've supported, managed, led over the years. Right? And you have a characteristic that we really appreciate, because there are times when the house is on fire. There's just so much going on. You would be surprised to see how many leaders say, well, that needs to be fixed, and walk away.
Kind of leading from a higher position.
Well, they're exerting power, but they're not demonstrating leadership.
Yeah.
And so my methodology has always been to be roll up the sleeves and say, how can I help put out this fire? You do this, that's your technical expertise. What can I do to help you? Okay, roll up the sleeves and get involved.
So
And your team,
hands-on leadership that will solve the problems, not the hands-off walk away.
correct, at 100%. Not only solve the problem, but by that support from the team, recognizing how you as a leader are willing to get involved with them and their work as well. They will appreciate and respect that more than you can imagine. Because you're not like the other guy who yells and then goes to his office.
So recently I read a few books on, Navy SEALs, their experience in combat in Iraq and whatnot.
Yeah.
There are some stories about, leaders who screw up and have to speak in front of the team. Hey, I did this completely wrong. I take full responsibility for it. So that full responsibilities, do you see moments like that in your role?
Absolutely.
You did something completely wrong and you have to admit it in front of everybody.
Yep. And after you've done it a few times, it gets easier. Because what you'll find in human interactions, it is my experience that if you or if I say, I screwed something up,
Takes the burden off of you, right?
and the other person, the other people involved want to support that. Why? Because you're being honest and truthful. Yes, you did. It's okay. How do we fix it? So you want to come with that genuine humbleness of saying, yep, I messed that one up.